If you've been scrolling through dozens of range options, reading specs, watching unboxing videos, and still feel a little stuck, this review is here to clear the fog. You've probably asked yourself whether a 6-burner propane unit is worth the space and cost, especially when a lot of the marketing talks about commercial power, but you're really just feeding a busy family or a small catering side hustle. Link is in the description if you want to check the product details on Amazon. First off, the biggest hesitation most people have with a 36-inch, 6-burner propane range is the installation hassle. You can't just pop it into a standard home kitchen without thinking about venting, gas lines, and the extra countertop real estate it demands. If you've never dealt with a dedicated propane line before, you'll probably need a licensed plumber or a gas technician to run the pipe and make sure the connections meet local codes. That upfront effort can feel steep, but the payoff shows up when you start using the oven for big batch meals or when a rush order comes in for a pop-up food stall. The OMCAN 47450 is designed with a convection oven that spans the full width of the unit, which means you can bake multiple trays at once and still get that even heat circulation most home ovens struggle to achieve. In practice, that means a tray of cookies and a roasting pan can share the oven without the cookies ending up half-cooked while the roast is overdone. For anyone who does a lot of batch cooking, think weekend meal prep, a small bakery operation, or a food truck menu that needs to churn out consistent quality, the convection feature cuts down on the need to rotate pans manually. Now let's talk about the 6 burners. They're spread across the width in a layout that mirrors what you'd see on a restaurant line. The 2 outer burners are the largest, giving you about 15,000 BTU each, while the inner 4 sit a bit lower, roughly 12,000 BTU. The real-world difference becomes apparent when you're searing a steak on one side while simmering a sauce on the other. You can keep the high-heat burner at max without sacrificing the gentler simmer zone, which is a common pain point on 4-burner home ranges where you have to juggle temperature adjustments constantly. A subtle but important detail is the range's total dimensions. At 36 inches wide, the unit sits comfortably under a standard commercial hood, but the depth pushes out a little more than a typical countertop model, about 30 inches deep, including the control panel. If your kitchen layout is tight, you'll need to account for that extra inch or two, especially if you have a backsplash or an adjacent wall that can't be moved. Many buyers miss that the oven door swings open wide enough to accommodate a full 15-inch pizza pan. You'll need clear space in front of the unit or a sliding door on your kitchen wall to avoid hitting the oven when you pull it open. One of the practical strengths that often gets lost in spec sheets is the simplicity of the control layout. The knobs are large, tactile, and labeled clearly for each burner, so you can set and forget the temperature without constantly checking a digital readout. The oven thermostat, though analog, clicks into place with a reassuring feel. For a busy kitchen where you're juggling orders, that tactile feedback can be a tiny confidence boost, reducing the chance of overshooting a simmer or undercooking a batch. On the downside, the analog oven temperature control can be a bit finicky if you need precise low heat settings, say, for slow roasting a brisket at 225°F. You'll end up tweaking the knob a couple of times to settle into the sweet spot, which isn't a deal breaker, but is worth noting if you rely on exact temperature curves for specific recipes. Also, the convection fan is fairly loud. It's a necessary trade-off for the even heat distribution, but if your kitchen is semi-open to a living area, you'll hear the fan humming as it circulates air during a bake. It's not a household quiet appliance, but most commercial users accept that as part of the package. Another hidden consideration is the fuel cost. Propane runs cheaper per BTU than electric in many regions, which is why the unit markets itself as a cost-effective solution for high-volume cooking. However, you have to factor in the price of the propane tank, the refill schedule, and the potential need for a larger tank if you're running the oven and multiple burners simultaneously for extended periods. For a family that cooks a couple of meals a day, the fuel savings might be modest, but for a catering service or a food truck that operates 8-hour days, the cumulative difference can be significant. So, who should buy this range? If you're a serious home chef who already has a propane line, or if you run a small-scale food business, pop-up cafe, farmer market stall, or a catering side gig, this unit hits the sweet spot between power and footprint. It's especially a win for those who need that extra oven capacity without investing in a separate wall oven, and